Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share some of the lessons I've learned along the way during my journey up until now. So yeah, let's get started. Being in treatment has been a complicated, twisted road for me. It's been a maze I've walked over and over again, sometimes crawling, sometimes running, sometimes being dragged. Over the past 4.5 years, I've cycled through numerous hospitals, residentials, and PHP, IOP, and outpatient settings. Each place had its own smell of disinfectant, laminated rule sheets taped to the wall, staff with practiced smiles, air of quiet urgency. Sometimes it felt like I was doing the same things over and over again, and it felt redundant, unhelpful. But other times I was challenged in ways I didn't expect. During these years, I've learned that healing is nowhere close to a straight line. It's more like a spiral staircase, winding back on itself, dizzying. When I was 10, I was a nationally ranked swimmer, training hours and hours a day. From the outside, it looked perfect, but panic attacks and OCD were already constant and completely controlling me, terrifying 10-year-old me. Quitting swimming felt like jumping off a cliff on purpose, my first public failure, the first crack in the glass. The perfectionism, shame, and self hate that had been bubbling quietly now had a place to grow. A voice inside me constantly screamed, "You're nothing without this," and I didn't realize how loud that voice would become. These same patterns show up in my eating disorder and in treatment. Long stretches of white knuckling, then sudden crashes that feel like free fall. I've been in enough places to know that one moment you can be doing well on paper, and the next you're back at square one. The path of healing, it's full of setbacks, plateaus, and brief moments of progress that can disappear just as quickly. Recovery isn't just something you decide to do one day and then it's done. It's not like flipping a switch. It's more like taking hundreds and thousands of tiny steps, many of which don't feel like they're leading you anywhere at all. It's like building a muscle you didn't even know you had, slow, repetitive, and exhausting, sometimes trembling under the weight of its own effort. And the truth no one really wants to say out loud. For many people, once you have an eating disorder, it doesn't really go away completely. It's always in the back of your mind, lingering, sometimes a whisper, sometimes relentless shouts. I've noticed that people who are further along in recovery just get better at ignoring the urges, silencing the voices, and countering the thoughts instead of believing them automatically. They get better at making choices that go against their eating disorder, and slowly things get quieter and easier to manage. Watching people at different stages of treatment has shown me this over and over again. But even then, it's not automatic. It's still a conscious decision to choose recovery every day. Recovery isn't a destination necessarily, but a daily decision, one that can be heavy to lift. For me, I've come to terms with the part of me that holds on tightly to my eating disorder because it feels familiar, safe, and comforting. This long rotation of treatments has been both exhausting and eye-opening. When I first entered treatment at 13, I thought I'd be there for a few weeks, then return to my old ways. I had no idea how many times I'd be forced to walk through those doors over and over again. I spent a lot of time feeling angry, resentful, and frustrated about being in treatment, convinced there wasn't anything to learn or gain, convinced it would all be a waste of time. I didn't want this, so what could there be to possibly get from this other than another disruption to my life? However, somewhere along the endless revolving doors of admissions, I started learning so much about myself that I never expected to know. Not just about my diagnosis, but about the way my mind bends under pressure, the way I flinch at certain words, the way my heart softens or hardens depending on who's in the room. I began to notice patterns, the triggers that could unravel me in seconds, the thoughts that spiraled the fastest, the behaviors that hurt not only me, but the people around me. Talking about it, dragging the words out of my throat when everything inside screamed to stay silent, sometimes cracked a small window of air into the room. I started to learn that support systems don't always have to be there to force you to do things, but instead offer options and tools for when you are ready. You're handed tools, but you still have to decide when and how to utilize them. I've also learned that progress doesn't need to look like the before and after pictures people imagine. Sometimes it's in tiny shifts, eating one more bite, scraping your plate clean, allowing someone to help calm you down during a panic attack, or naming an emotion out loud instead of bottling it up. It began to look like staying present and awake during group, keeping my eyes open, willing myself not to drift away. Back then, I would shut down completely in therapy, but now, even on days I hate being there, I try to speak up at least once. That's still a step forward. Other times, it's in realizing what I don't want or admitting that I'm not ready. All of those things are still movement. When I think back to my first admission at 13, I remember feeling invincible, convinced I didn't need help. The cold clinical ICU, the squeaks of my own footsteps on hospital tile, the endless groups and clatter of plates. Every detail left its mark. I can still picture the trays of food, the smell of lukewarm soup drifting through the hall, the way the uncomfortable therapy chair stuck to my skin when I shifted, and how the clock ticked so loudly it felt like it was measuring out my shame. I remember every single patient that came and went, each one carrying a story I never fully know. Those memories are woven into every lesson I've learned along the way. They're reminders that even though I've circled through treatment over and over, each time I picked up something new. A skill, a phrase, a moment of connection. Those small pieces are part of my story too. There's one memory I keep replaying. It's raining, the kind of cold, sideways rain that soaks through your shirt. For their privacy, we will refer to them as S. S and I sit on the drenched sidewalk curb outside the residential, sobbing and holding each other, tears mingling with raindrops. We whisper to each other that it's going to be okay, even though we don't know if it will be. The sky is dark, the pavement slick, but in that moment something flickers. We were both drowning in our own pain, yet on that rainy sidewalk, that moment showed me that connection can exist even in the darkest spaces. Even in the pit of everything ugly, kindness could still reach me. People come and go, but the imprints they leave can still guide you. S passed earlier this year in February. The text I never got back, the news dropping like a stone in my chest. It reminded me of how fragile life is, how someone can be gone in an instant. But it also showed me how deeply someone can touch you even in a short time. I still carry their words, their laugh, their love, and support. Remembering them keeps me grounded in why connection matters and why our lives, even at our lowest, still hold meaning. Holding on to that lesson has helped me to stay present in treatment, even when it feels impossible. Connection doesn't cancel pain, but it makes the pain survivable. I'm still struggling. I still feel conflicted about recovery, and being in treatment makes me guilty and frustrated. But I'm starting to see that it's okay to be where I am, and that I don't have to pretend to be ready when I'm not. Sometimes showing up just means gripping the edge of a chair until my knuckles go white, forcing myself to breathe, eyes darting to the clock, and staying in the room when every muscle in me wants to run out and never return. Other times it's being honest in my journal or admitting out loud what's really on my mind. It's okay to be where I am, and I don't have to pretend to be ready when I'm not. There's value in simply walking into the room, sitting down, and staying present for the hour, even if my heart isn't in it. Those things may seem small from the outside, but for me, they're huge. What I can do right now is to keep learning about myself and hold space for the possibility that things might look different one day, even if I can't picture it yet. If there's one lesson I'm taking away from this whole endeavor, it's that honesty matters. Not just to others around me, but to myself as well. Naming where I'm at, even if it's uncomfortable, is still a kind of progress. I used to think progress only meant numbers changing or meals completed. Now I understand that progress can be telling the truth about how much I don't want to be here, or admitting when something scares me, or saying I'm not ready yet. I don't know exactly what my path will look like, but I'm beginning to understand that every step, even the reluctant and begrudging ones, teaches me something about who I am. Maybe the point isn't to have it all figured out, but to keep discovering. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to know what recovery means for you yet. You just have to keep showing up. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to keep breathing.